I think given the the attendees today, we do need to bring some diversity into our ranks. Got 6 white men.
I identify as black. Is that good enough now?
Okay. Michael?
Yes, good.
Well, that's good. I thought you were kidding. You're kidding, right?
Well, it'd be nice to have more diversity, some
Oh,
diversity.
no. But about 6 white guys.
One,
No,
two.
I think
I
you're
don't see
right.
any. I don't see any black women, anything on this call so far.
Oh, Asian.
Asian. Oh yeah.
How long have we known each other, Michael?
That's bizarre. That's so funny.
Michael's being woke.
Yes.
Being woke. Yeah, that's true. I won't deny you that. Korean background?
Korean, yes. Parents.
Lee is certainly a Korean name.
Victor, you got whitewashed out of the group right here.
There we go.
Whitewashed. You got whitewashed. Yeah, we still need some more diversity.
Right. Yeah, no,
Right.
I agree with that. Yes.
All right, good. So anyway, so it doesn't look like we're gonna have a big crew. I just recently, I'll tell you, dropped $8,000 to be part of a program for outreach, and my focus is on bringing more people into the group. So I will be spending more time trying to build the group, expanding it, and making it better for everyone. So that's my objective. And out of that, I spend the money because hopefully it will also bring in more referrals for folks.
What kind of program?
Actually, a guy who's joining. It's an email outreach. It's essentially you got to spend some time on each email because you personalize them, and it's a drip series. So it's more about. It's interesting. He'll tell you about it when he shows up. Hopefully he'll show up. And he was introduced to me by Jason Cement, who's a member of the group.
Yeah.
So it's a lead gen program, but it's a sort of a one-time fee, and then basically you just pay for the the virtual assistant and the tools independently. But you're part of the program, sort of the group that's doing this, and it's got a community. And so I'm building my infrastructure now. Things like doing warming up your email accounts. So you have to set up some burner email accounts. It's cold outreach, but you try to make it as warm as possible.
Where's the list from?
The list, Apollo, I think.
So you're acquiring?
You acquire lists.
Or,
Yeah, I know it probably violates all sorts of anti-spam rules, but yeah, everybody's doing it. So, and it's not a huge blast. Each email is in fact customized. You customize each email, not every email. You customize the first email to the person based on what you can find about them on LinkedIn or whatever. So it's going to be a fair amount of time to dedicate to it. But then you have a VA, a virtual assistant, who follows up and sets up the appointments. And there's a series of emails. It's a sequence. But it's more like you're buying into learning how to do this and the community around it. So we'll see.
hey, Michael, can I make a suggestion and
Sure.
totally reject this, as I don't mean to usurp what's your meeting, but I was going to usurp your meeting. No, given that we have 6 people who may or may not be white or male.
I just should ask each person to self-identify.
Far be it from me to say.
And watch my pronouns, bro.
Okay.
Do you want to do something different and have more of a discussion? I mean, and you're talking about lead generation, like talking about lead generation, or and everyone could add their expertise, or have, I don't know, someone bring a business problem, marketing problem. We could all address that.
Sure. I mean, we do not have a showcase, so there's only 6 of us. I just want to give everybody a chance to meet Bruce and Bruce to meet them. So why don't we just do quick go round, 2 minutes each, Would that work? And then we'll jump into it. First of all, are people okay with that, talking about something like lead gen?
Sure.
All right. I mean, we can continue the conversation and then break in the middle or whatever, since I got it started.
Sure.
So if you've got, I mean, so this program is called Organic Outreach. And Joe Petruzzi, I think his name is.
Were we gonna go around the room first?
We can do that. We can
Do
go around.
intros. Yeah, I should do intros.
Okay, let's do some intros. So why don't we do it in the order in which folks showed up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I'll put it in the chat. More chat. Come on. Why is the chat not coming up? There it is. So Scott, Bryce, Victor, Howard, Bruce, and me. Scott, why don't, no, it's 2 minutes-ish, 2-3 minutes, something like that. Feel free
Sure.
to,
Well, I basically, sorry for the, I focus on partnerships and alliances. And in my career, it was narrow in various areas in my earlier life, in music marketing, and then in sports marketing, and then in digital marketing, working with a SaaS platform, Active Network, in the early part of this last decade. And now it's become, because of, having working 40 years, it's very diverse. So I work with partnerships with philanthropy I was talking about earlier, where I put UPS together with a Black Entrepreneur Initiative, or I consulted New York Chamber of Commerce, and I'm now working with a big company to become another community patron, or a patron of theirs, that, they have members, but also they need, larger sums of money to fuel the Chamber of Commerce, Greater New York Chamber of Commerce. I have, I do some digital marketing on the side, because it's always something I do, and I'm working with Jane Parker Baked Goods to launch them for the holiday season. We're just going to start that next week. But basically what I do is I put properties, intellectual properties. I worked on the Gates project 15 or 20, it was 04, so whatever that is, 17 years ago, when Christo wrapped, 7,500 arches in Central Park, the intellectual property rights, and partners for that. So I've worked in a diverse arts, cultural, sports, entertainment, and other diverse areas where people are looking for funding or partnerships of some sort, alliances and in intellectual property licensing.
yeah, I think I have somebody who may want to meet, a woman by the name of Nadine Pizer, who used to do sort of all of the events for Tish, and she's very connected. She's got her own agency that puts together big programs, oftentimes matching not-for-profits with corporations, I believe.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. For
Yeah,
Jonathan Tish?
for the Tish companies. So they owned, she actually did it for Rockefeller Center. So she was
Yeah,
the
okay.
head, she was the events person for Rockefeller Center. So she did the big Christmas, the whole.
Yeah, her
thing
name is
there.
familiar to me, but I don't know her.
Okay.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Bryce, you're up.
Oh, I was hey everybody. So I'm Bryce Wade, not Bruce Wayne, and I'm the VP of Sales for Marketing Agency. So what we typically do is SEO in various ways, but what I've been really focused on the last little while is one of our products called Ad Cannibal. Can I share my screen, Michael?
Sure. Yeah, hold on. Event sharing options, all participants, go for it.
And so what we essentially do with this product called Ad Cannibal is save large companies money by making their SEM or Google AdWords campaigns more efficient. So you can see that if I go and search for Safeway, I'm looking for Safeway, and they have obviously an ad there that's costing them money. So if anybody clicks on that ad, it's a wasted click and a waste of money. So what this essentially does is it looks at whether or not you have keywords that rank number one, whether or not you have keywords that that you have an ad on, and whether or not there are competitors for that keyword. So if there's no competitors, it's a wasted click and a waste of money. AI takes it down. If there is a competitor, it's not a waste of money, so it puts the ad back up. And this process generally saves large companies between 5 and 15% of their ad budget. They can really redeploy into something that's more efficient and more profitable. And what happens, what it looks like, is that after it's installed, the actual cost of the ads for keywords that they rank number one for goes down significantly. Obviously, if it's a very high competition keyword, like for insurance, for example, there's usually a lot less savings. But even with somebody like State Farm, I still found $100,000 in savings per month for a company like that, and they spend millions of dollars per month. So there's a lot of opportunity with this. So if you know anybody that would be interested in something like this, either large companies, Fortune 500, media buyers, anybody that deals with SEM or even SEO, yeah, let me know. Happy to collaborate. And if anybody wants to work with me, there is a fee structure where I give you a profit share of 5% for just a referral, and that's on an ongoing permanent basis. As long as they're a client, you get paid for it. So thanks.
Back to that slide. I'm pretty familiar with that slide, the chart slide, to say that one. Yeah. So yeah, I'll just, this is actually pretty amazing. So the total click-through rate, the blended click-through rate, is that deep purple.
Yeah.
And you can see the blend between ad clicks and organic clicks. This is just for that keyword. Went from half and half to just all organic, but the total click-through rate stayed flat. And so they saved a ton of money.
Yeah. And this is just for keywords that they rank number one for.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can see that it's pretty cool.
Is there a minimum ad spend that makes it worthwhile?
About 50 grand
a month.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's because they take a portion. I think the client only pays a portion of the savings.
Yeah. So it's performance based. So we charge a percentage of what we save them, and then they redeploy whatever they saved back into either their marketing or their budget or whatever. So it's performance based. So there's no risk to the client. That's why we ask for a minimum of roughly 50 grand. Because if we save them 10%, it's only $5 grand a month. And just to run the servers, it's money just for the server cycles.
Right. Great. Victor, you're up.
Okay, can I share my screen?
Sure.
Okay. Let me see. All right. So I created this chart the other day to explain what I do to some other folks. So basically what I do, I think most of you know, but Bruce, it's nice to meet you, is my business is really built around leveraging my network. So, building kind of on what Bryce was just saying about, the fees that they pay. So what I do is I find interesting situations like Bryce's, and I'm actually working on a couple of projects for him. So I find a seller, I sign them up. And then what I often do is I either find them a buyer, a client, or or for purposes of the discussion with this group, is I talk to my connections, and they often introduce me to potential buyers. And then, we all kind of share in the fee. So, so Michael, for example, has introduced me to some folks as well. And Howard, there's actually a project I'm working on right now that I'd be interested in talking to you about. Okay. And that is one that I've mentioned, I think, previously on this call. And that has to do with, I'm looking for online group events, like corporate events, fundraising events, holiday events, celebrations, those kinds of things, where they need something entertaining to keep people engaged, but also potentially for fundraising purposes to get people to, feel good about it and to cough up money. So I found a guy who essentially turns Zoom events into like an online game show, and he holds trivia contests within the Zoom context. And what he does is he both he'll ask the question himself, but he'll be the host moderator, the way that Michael is the host moderator of this event. But he also is pretty clever. Let me see if I've got it here. And he can customize it. So this is a video question. I'll play part of it. This is a video question he did for an event for Morgan Stanley.
Well, hello there, everyone. Right now, I have a trivia question for you
This is from Morgan Stanley.
Morgan Stanley. I know.
Wow.
What a coincidence, right? Anyway, here comes the question. What movie came out the same year that Morgan Stanley went public? Is it A, Saturday Night Fever, B, Pulp Fiction, C, Top Gun, or is it D, Jaws?
I hope it's Pulp Fiction.
By the way, Pulp Fiction.
So anyway, the guy who did this, he's an ex-journalist, and he's very clever about this because, like, let's put it, if somebody like me was writing this question, I would have asked, what year did they go public?
Yeah.
Right. Whereas he really made it much more interesting because this way, when you're in your little breakout room, it's, there's more stuff to argue about, right? Like what year did those movies actually come out? Not just what year did Morgan Stanley go public. So it's fairly clever stuff. He also has cartoons. Let me see if I have one of those up. I forget.
It was very impressive. Is Morgan Stanley is one of his clients, and he's got, there was another big client too. That you mentioned.
Google is one of his clients.
Right.
And so this is actually a project we're doing we're pitching with Andrew Shulkin from the group, right? So he's introduced us to the Rhinebeck Science Foundation. So we put in a proposal to them. So we have puppets, as you just saw, but we also have Glenn the trivia fish. So the guy, it's fairly clever in how he does it, and it's very engaging. And we're really getting a lot of interest from both corporates, like the Google, Morgan Stanleys of the world, but also from nonprofits.
What does a typical program like this cost for?
Between $2,000 and $3,000.
Oh, that's it.
That's it?
Wow.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I meant to say between $3,000 and $4,000. Or was it between $4,000 and $5,000? Tell me when to stop. So,
Exactly.
I expected you to say like 10 or 15 grand.
well, yeah, it's very funny because one of the things with one of the people we were pitching, right? When I said, "Oh yeah, our clients are more Google and Morgan Stanley," that actually scared them, right?
Yeah.
Then they thought that it was, oh yeah, $10,000. But let's put it this way: our interest would be aligned because obviously, anybody who helps me find clients, we get a fee, and the more we can charge, the bigger our fee to split.
Right.
So
but it sounds like, there's a lot of potential for fundraising events that are now, virtual, or maybe they're going back to real life. But if there are some that are still virtual.
Yes. Well, here's the crazy thing. I was on a call this afternoon with somebody. We're talking to a political campaign, right? Because they want to raise money, and they also want to raise. Nobody raises money from local people anymore. Everybody raises money from out of their district or out of their state. So this way, you can have a Zoom event. It's interesting, and you can reach a wider audience when you're raising money for your PAC or your campaign.
Yeah, I guess also you could do, you could also raise money just in this thing. Like, Ante Up, you got to pay $100 to play, and the winner gets 50%, like a 50-50 split. Or
That's
like
true.
That.
Yeah. The formats are endless.
Right.
So,
50-50s are fun.
Exactly.
Cool. All right. Howard, speaking about not-for-profits.
Yeah, we help nonprofits boost their brands, reinvent themselves, raise more money. Company's called Red Rooster Group. Wake Up Your Brand is our theme. And I guess I could do a quick show and tell if everyone is as well. Let's see, share.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something. So we recently worked with an organization, well, actually we're still working with them, that in the Jewish community that trains members of the Jewish community to be security volunteers for their synagogue or for events or marches, rallies, things like that. It comes out of a European model of protecting your own, and as opposed to here where everyone just outsources everything, including security, just hire some security guards. But the model is really interesting in that people who are members of a congregation are better equipped to see suspicious behavior because they know who's who. They could see what's going on. They know the patterns and things like that. And there have been lots of successful case studies of thwarting attacks based on the idea that attacks are planned, not just people coming up and doing very bad things, but they're scoping out, usually they're scoping out the synagogue or the place or the venue. So they had to, in terms of the deliverables, they had some sheets that they were using, and they weren't as effective as they could be in telling their story. Their brand was a little bit lost here. They're called Community Security Service. They represent the brand down here. It's not a real clear focus. The two-page sheet, and we try to bring more focus to it, and tell their story, and clarify their sub-brands in a more cohesive way. So this is the old sheet. Here's the new, the redesigned sheet. We gave them a new tagline. They did not have one. Tagline called "Protecting Our Own," that encapsulates what they do. They also had to distinguish between another group called CSI, which does the hard security, the cameras and doors and things like that. There's a lot of confusion there. So they needed something that would talk about the people and in a positive way. So empowering Jews to identify threats and safeguard our communities. And then we brought these 3 lines, we created these 3 lines: empowering congregants, safeguarding synagogues, and protecting events. And we subordinated the brands that no one knew about anyway. And then we helped them tell their story in a more cohesive way, bring to life the actual threats, bring to life this idea of the models that Jews could take control, that it works, that it's free, that has some credibility, for them. We roll this out over other sheets as well. They have a synagogue program. They have an entry point for as an initial one. They have one for events and things like that. So this is how we help them to kind of rethink and repackage who they are. And we did a marketing campaign that'll be a story for another day.
Fascinating.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Absolutely. All right, so I
It's
will.
great. Although, I mean, it's sad that it's necessary, but it's a
Yeah.
good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. I belong to. Haven't been there in a long time. Belong to a synagogue on the Upper West Side where they actually have their own staff do the security. Yeah, so they.
Have you been to
know
Congress lately to offer this program?
Congress.
Work anywhere, I mean, it works in conjunction with paid staff, with law enforcement, with
Right.
hard security. So it's kind of it's one of the legs of the stool.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, Bruce, you're up.
My company is Marketing Sense, and I don't have show and tell this evening, but I have 2 businesses. One, I'm a LinkedIn profile writer and trainer, and I have a real passion around drawing out what makes professionals special and building them a new and best-in-class authentic LinkedIn profile that helps them stand out. So I work with people that generally have not done a lot of branding, attorneys, human resources consultants, even some marketing consultants that don't know the ins and outs of LinkedIn and want to learn from me. And I also provide training that helps identify some very pragmatic steps that people can take in 30 minutes a week or less to build your presence using LinkedIn. And then I have a business as an outsourced marketing director for smaller firms and organizations that don't have marketing in-house. I worked with a technology company for 9 years, a law firm for several years, and now I'm focusing on a nonprofit in Westchester County where I live called the Senior Law Day Collaborative. We provide educational workshops and resources for older adults in Westchester. And we did a very successful pivot from 100% in person to 100% online, with now a tiptoe back into face-to-face with an outside event. So I can talk to anyone about that experience.
You said the outsourced marketing director work. You said law firms. What else?
I'm trying. Well, right now I'm focused on on nonprofits. So that's really where I'd like to build my business, with smaller nonprofits that don't have marketing in-house, don't have a marketing or communications manager.
All right, cool.
Let's connect.
Yeah. Well, Howard, we're in that group.
Yeah.
We're coming on Fridays from time to time. So I'll reach out to you.
Very cool. So,
Michael,
yes,
sorry, before we move to the next, I just want to thank Howard. There was a project, I came across a project from one of the business school, Michael, not ours, but a different business school. And I'd involved Rajiv in the project, and then we needed some additional help. So I think Rajiv had reached out to Howard.
Yeah.
It turns out it's not a good fit, but the response was great, and so it's terrific to know that that he's there, and certainly based on the work that he showed today and the stuff we've seen in the past, if we see something that's a good fit, we know where we would go. So that's great. And also, Bryce, I was on a webinar with Bryce. I guess that's your business partner. And it was very interesting. I learned a lot in that really cool session. So I think if anybody has an opportunity to sit in on one of those future sessions, it's definitely worth attending.
So yeah, I didn't mention this at all, but we have another consulting aspect of the business that does essentially profitability optimization of the business. So we look at like a dozen different areas of the company, and we typically find companies at least $100,000 in profitability that they didn't know they had. Some of the companies that we've worked for are multi-million-dollar companies. We found them a couple $1,000,000 worth of extra revenue just with a couple simple questions. So if anybody wants any information on that, happy to share.
That's
very
fascinating.
cool. Yeah, it's fascinating. Earl Formata, that's your partner's name. Really interesting guy, very bright. Calls himself what's his little moniker?
Evil marketing genius.
Evil marketing genius. Yeah.
he got contracted by a treasury company, so they only deal with companies over $100 million. They're like, here's $1 million, go make us a bunch of money, and he brought $14 million in with it.
Wow.
That's great.
Does stuff like that.
Yeah, he's
and if you guys are interested in the BEO, I'll post like a quick video that you guys can look at if you're interested in attending one of the sessions. It's an hour and a half on Tuesdays, so 2 weeks from now.
Real superstar. So you all know me, of course. My name is Michael Bendit. I'll put a little timer on here. Just to give you, I actually had a call today with a client who I've been working with. She has a client. She's a marketing, I guess a part-time, outsourced CMO for a furniture company, a high-end furniture company called Cliff Young Limited. And they make very high-end, expensive, $10,000+ furniture. They also import some Italian furniture. In any case, so one of my teams has been doing work for them, doing a 3D rendering. I think I told you that they will design something, create a 3D rendering of it, put it on their website before they even build the first one. And when they sell it, then they take pictures of what they sold and replace the 3D renderings. The 3D renderings actually are good enough to sell the product, even on a very high-end product line. And turns out they're having problems with their website. It got hacked, and she put out a request on Mosaic, which I responded to. Of course, I know her, but she had forgotten that I do other things besides 3D rendering. Not uncommon. When a client starts working with you, they know you for what you're working with them on. But I was able to respond. We had a call today. It's sort of an emergency situation because the hosting company and the development firm they were working with is not equipped to sort of fix this type of issue. So there's a good chance we'll take over that. One of my teams will take that over. We had a call today. The hosting company they were working with said, if you don't fix this, we can't take responsibility for hacks on the WordPress site or for malware. So I'm putting her in touch. I've already put her in touch with my teams that have a maintenance program, and they'll manage the malware, right? They'll manage and monitor the malware plugins that will look for intrusions and alert my team that there has been an intrusion. Another thing that's somewhat unique is they lost a bunch of data because they noticed the hack, but it had already been going on for like, I don't know, 20 days, and they only had backups going back to 14 days. And my team does backups for 90 days. So chances are that you really won't, unlikely to lose anything. And that's just one example of the type of teams that I represent. You know, WordPress is still very big. It's probably the most widely used system on the internet. In fact, it is the most widely used content management system on the internet. But you know, we also do Shopify, which is an e-commerce platform, Magento, other e-commerce platforms, mobile applications, and then just also custom builds. So I tell people, listen, best connections for me are in fact digital marketing agencies, because they oftentimes don't have the resources in-house to deliver what comes over the transom, just because either they're too busy, or you know, their programmers are too busy, or they don't have the skill set for that particular tech stack, you would call it, you know, programming language, whatever platform they're using. And then of course I do this, building this network, and am happy to talk more about the leads program. I can't vouch for it yet because I'm just getting started, but it's fairly structured. It's a little different than most lead generating programs in that it's mostly you pay up front, but it's a sort of, as long as you want to be part of the community and you continue to work with them, there's no ongoing fee. You can use their VA, so virtual assistant matching services, but I don't think you pay a premium for that. I think maybe you do, I'm not sure. But a virtual assistant, they say, is going to cost like $600 to $1,000 a month on top of you know, the upfront, which is right $7,800 upfront. And then they also connect you with, put you on a bunch of tools. One called, I think the one that I'll be using shortly is called Uptick. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it. It's an email marketing tool, but you know, first of all, they have a discount, but also they design it to work with their approach. Howard, any thoughts on, I know you were the one that said you might want to talk about lead gen. You're on mute, by the way.
Oh, no, just curious with the collective of the group here, people had ideas about how they get leads. What has anyone, I didn't have any particular agenda, I was just curious.
Okay.
So we actually have a client doing marketing. They're also scraping emails, which is not the greatest. They're trying to generate more, become less reliant on Facebook now that, you know, Facebook just today even changed their formula for targeting. So it's becoming more expensive, or not to reach people, but to actually get the engagement, since they're now including people outside of the lookalike audience in their, you know, in the matching. So they'll still deliver it to X amount of people, but not all will be exactly lookalike. They'll expand the audience. So we're running the campaign, and the costs were, you know, from 60% more than last year for the same click through. So fortunately we built up an email base for them, and the client's been scraping emails, which is not great, but we get a 3% response on the email. So anyway, I'm just curious, I got you, Michael, I guess you don't know yet because you're first starting this, the email acquisition. Has anyone done email targeting or acquisition?
Yes. So when you say lead generation, I look at that two ways, Howard. One is an incoming funnel, and the other is what you're talking about in terms of, you know, maybe we'll call it IP address, PII, and email acquisition. So I worked in a firm both at Advantage Solutions, and then which is a division of a big brokerage firm, which you may all be familiar with, Advantage Sales and Marketing. And also in a company called Virtual Crowd Media as the head of strategic partnerships. And what we did there is we used AI. So we were doing conversational listening and following the digital journey of different targets. But, you know, in order to do it, you got to tune the AI to, I mean, we had hundreds of behavioral categories All right, so it's basically based on behaviorals. The most ideal application and where it was most effective were predictive audiences. So for example, people would actually post, share, tweet things about them unhappy in their marriage or getting divorced. You don't use email to ignite an engagement with somebody getting a divorce because that's a little spooky, but you can post social for a divorce lawyer, like professional services. And a client had a book called Divorce Without Destruction. So you content marketing in essence. Whereas with auto intenders or pre-movers, who are also predictive segments, you can use email to ignite. I mean, you're really just offering, we got a better deal here at Jack Max and Chevrolet, or, with movers, it might put a team of Douglas Elliman in front of their face, or that type of thing. So that was lead gen in the sense of acquiring, contact information in order to reach out to a specific segment, audience segments. What I do.
Can I just ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
So you use AI, and I don't know, we can talk about the technology behind that, or how I would even go about finding a company or someone to do that. But listening through social media channels like Facebook for people who are going through divorce scenarios, and then you're serving up an ad, a boosted post or an ad in Facebook in that channel, essentially.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. If you look at Toolcase, which is a company, toolcase.com, they are a preeminent AI company that has, and if you look at the news articles, yours truly wrote many of them, because I also do copywriting on the side. I'm basically, at 71, I'm a Swiss Army knife of marketing. That's what I'm doing for a living. You guys are all much more packaged. I mean, Bryce has a business, you have a business, I have a practice of but bottom line is that you could look and see they have a very, they focus on the business of financial and financial fraud and healthcare fraud primarily.